Hello, my name is Pi. Welcome to Baited Expectations episode number 3. We are really excited to discuss all the new updates and announcements regarding the new league called Heist. I have with me KittenCatNoodle, Brittleknee, and Velyna. How we all been doing? What have you guys been up to lately? I'll start with Kitten.
Finally getting over an RSI, but kind of stopped playing Harvest. Been playing a little bit of random games, like tried Spiritfarer and a little bit of Fall Guys with my friend Andy Mew. I've been good. Been working on a Delve lore video and just kind of crazy busy with lots of work stuff. Yeah.
Delve lore. Ooh.
There's not a lot, to be honest.
No?
No. But
Not
there's some.
Yet. I look forward to this.
And
What about you, Pi?
What? No, we'll come back to me.
Oh, okay, fine.
We'll talk about you, Vel. I know you've been in the Delve a lot.
I have indeed. I have. I just finished doing my first Divinity Original Sin 2 playthrough with Gazzy, which was awesome. Such a fun game. By the way, like 10 of 10, especially if you want to talk to animals and potentially kill them by mistake. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. But it's very good. It's very good. And I finished up my Howa Boys gear. I've made him great. And I'm close to 1300. Yeah. We're close. I'm going to be the third. I'm going to be number 3 Delve duelist before the league's over.
Nice.
And what about yourself, Brittleknee?
I've been finishing up updates on 2 of the builds that I wanted to revisit that were previously published, but then, it'd been some time since I've even looked at them. So finished their gearing, their progression, killing bosses and stuff on that, and feeling overall pretty happy with where the characters are now. And it's been a really interesting project, and now I'm like craving going back to other builds and doing the same. Because when you go back as a build creator, even a year and a half ago, like builds change so dynamically in that time. So it's really kind of cool to revisit old concepts with new tools and see what can be done. Aside from that, been playing a fair bit of Risk of Rain 2. Had its 1.0 release kind of recently, and it's really, really fun. I was playing it plenty before, like off stream, but I just really love that game. And then this last week has just been marathon prepping for the relay race.
Did you want to tell us a little bit more about the relay race?
Sure. Let's say Relay to Raise is kind of what we're calling it. It's our sort of attempt at doing something GDQ-ish for the PoE community as just like a general way to sort of unite everyone and kind of do a lot of good for various charities and causes. And it's been a lot of work, but overall, I think the concept is sound. We might change a little bit of it, like if we do this again next year. But it's also the first time we've ever done a relay race either. So there's a lot of extra organization and coordination involved. But I think it's a neat concept and format. And we've already raised over $1,000 already, which is really cool. We haven't even gone live yet. And we have 12 teams signed up, which vary pretty majorly as far as their dedication to racing. So we're going to have a lot of people taking like a taste of doing the speed running style of racing for the first time. And it should be pretty cool. Maybe we get a couple more people in the racing circuit out of this.
That's really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a pretty neat little combination of outreach, just both in terms of racing, but then also in terms of, doing outwork or outreach for the actual causes and charities themselves.
What time does the relay start?
It's tomorrow at 8 p.m. UTC. I think that ends up being 4 p.m. Eastern for US folks. And it'll be on Ziggy D's channel. He is hosting it with Octavian.
Oh. It's good to have...
Do you have particular... Sorry. I was going to ask Brittle if she has a particular team she's rooting for.
Oh, yeah. That's a good question.
Yeah. A couple teams that are actually looking very competitive. The one to keep an eye on, of course, is the one that's got I'm Exile, Chip, and sorry, my brain is fried. But basically, our top 3 speedrunners are all in one team together. And so that's going to make it fiercely competitive. So it'll be interesting to see how much practicing other people have done in order to see if they can secure first prize from them.
All I was going to say was that it's exciting to have something that's getting more people in the community involved.
Oh my God, I'm going to add. I forgot. It was Tai. How could I forget Tai?
Look, okay, you remembered in time for the podcast, like even within that question still being answered. So hopefully that's enough. Please. Don't hate us.
Oh, and
we'll see.
What 2 builds are you updating?
It's my Scourger Assassin and the Solarus Necromancer, the 2 that got reworked. And the Assassin, I decided to go Divine Flesh on him instead. Before, a lot of his like toughness and defensive layers were built over mind over matter recovery, and a lot of that recovery came through leech. And so this was fine on fights like Uber Elder, where you always had something to attack and hit to recover. Like if you took a hit and it hit your mana and your life down, you instantly had damage to replenish it because there's always something to attack. But with this new current end game, with all of the different phases for Cyrus, that's no longer a sustainable method of defense if you don't have good actual inherent mana regen to sustain. So I kind of had to rebuild him because the game changed, so I had to change with it.
Nice.
Okay, well, I'll briefly just mention that I've been spending a lot of time in the real world and not playing video games.
How's the real world going? It seems scary out there.
I mean, I just kind of realized that I need to spend some time with people in person as much as that's like safe to do. So that's been my priority, and it has been fairly risk-free despite us being all blatantly not wearing masks. We like wear masks to the location, and then as soon as you get there, you're like, it's a shame we can't hug anymore. Oh, shit, we're hugging.
You just gotta do the air hugs.
Yeah, dude.
The air hugs. Yeah.
The youth in Australia suck. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
what?
Really, we don't have any regard for the rules. I broke them within like 5 minutes of being with other people.
Oh my God.
I'm bad. Don't follow my example.
Don't need these anymore. Hand sanitizer out the door.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, you know, it's just been a time, and I'm really hoping to get past that. I'm very excited for something to pull me back into PoE, and I'm hoping Heist is that thing. It is definitely compelling enough. And considering that's what we have next to talk about, it's probably a good transition. So what were your first impressions of Heist? And shall we start with Brittleknee?
Sure. Overall, I'm feeling pretty excited about the league. I think they've done a lot to be particularly clever about this one. There's literally something in Heist for every type of player, if you think about it. So for mapping, it's minimally invasive. Like there's a few things to pick up here and there as far as like the markers and the contracts. And the heist items that you get from mapping hopefully will scale through, or I think it does actually scale through normal juicing methods. So if you're naturally investing in your maps, you're going to get more out of it. And that always feels good, sort of like the sulfite method. And sure, maybe an extra few mobs on the map would be nice. I think there's been some complaints about that, but we've had worse league integrations when it comes to mapping. And after Delirium, we're spoiled. But for the mechanic, you get to kind of choose your level of engagement, everything from how you conduct yourself inside the heist to how you get out of it. You can be as sneaky or as blunt as you want. And for those who enjoy like a slower play style, there's a chance to sort of really relish the atmosphere of the league itself. And for those who like to zoom, you just smash your way in, grab the artifact, smash your way out, and it's just like extra mobs and quant, basically. And there's also like variations to those rewards, from like the regular heist to building a grand heist, sort of like the difference between like a normal node and delve to a city. And that variability is pretty nice in general for pacing as you go through content in a league. And I also like that this one is actually self-sustainable, that you can actually just get lost in doing, the heist content as if you want to. And I think that's fantastic. That was one of the things I didn't like about Delve, was sort of getting spilled back out into the normal world when you ran out of sulfite, kind of like blinking and like wondering what was going on. And it kind of almost felt bad sometimes. So like, all right, now I got to go gather in more sulfite so I can go back and continue to have the fun that I was having. So I think this is sort of like an improvement on that concept too. The only thing that they have to get right here is the drop rate of heist contracts, because if they drop too little or too much, there's going to be complaints ranging from literally unplayable, I can't sustain my heist, to here's quad tab number 8 of contracts. And that's like, neither of those things are very good for the game either. And likewise, they've sort of diversified the league specific rewards enough that I feel like there's something for everyone to be excited about. It's not just cluster jewels, or it's not just whatever. Like, if you like builds, there's new uniques and gems with alternate effects. If you like crafting, there's new item bases and item enchants. And if you like really powerful characters, there's going to be crazy shit to buy that was going to augment your character that everyone else is going to be like crafting and exciting about. And like, the best part about all of this too is that you can also completely ignore the mechanic if you do not like it. It's not intrusive. You don't have to click on an altar, hunt beasts, run extra maps, or get ganked by the syndicate. Like, it's just don't go to the island. And I feel like they've really taken their time here. And I truly believe if you just don't have like a knee-jerk reaction to it, that there's something for everyone in this league.
That's pretty comprehensive. I mean, I kind of had some stuff that I wanted to respond to, but I think maybe we'll just get the first impressions from the other guys first. So I don't know who wants to jump in next. I think Noodle.
So, sure. Okay, well, first thing, I like being sneaky. I love loot, and I'm always down for more lore. So I was very excited by the announcement. I think all of it in terms of the aesthetic, having a new place to go to with the harbor, all of these new characters being introduced is inherently interesting, but also the idea of having maps, as Chris has said, an idea or a way to basically get a map-like experience without actually having to progress all the way to maps. And not only that, I like the idea of having these sort of contained maps with the bunker and then having more of a synthesis, but in my opinion, it looks more well thought out, a synthesis like creation with the grand heist, where you're not only able to take the contracts that you've already done and already received information on, but elaborate on that information, find more, work with other people to make a better plan for your grand heist, which I think is really exciting, because really there's not much reason to play with other people unless you're trying to level or trying to, magic find and get more items. Like, there's not a ton of reason to do that. It's not like you're necessarily unlocking content that wouldn't have been available to you technically. Granted, you would have more boons, but having this kind of more cooperative dimension that is like not just enhancing one stat, but really building on each other. And even with things like the trinkets, which I know we'll talk about later, but that's not map owned, that's player owned, and that it will affect other people's maps. I think that they're doing a really good job of making me actually want to play with other people. And I mean, some of the things that they've shown on the trinkets, some of the loot that's available, this alternate, like the replicas, I think are very interesting, especially thinking about, are they going to be better? Are they not? There's so much. And I do think, as Brittle said, that offers a lot of variety for people. And it's in the basic system of maps, which I'm always down for more maps.
Pretty cool. Vely?
Well, I'm really excited. I'm really intrigued. I have a lot of questions about the allies. leveling people up, their equipment slots, how that's going to feel, how I'm going to gain this equipment. I'm really nervous on the party play aspect just because the game tends to lag so much in party play. And I don't want it to be one of those experiences where I'm just like, oh, this guy does the most damage, so I'm just trailing behind him as he kills all the stuff or whatever, right? Like I don't want to feel that way. So I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm really interested about the leveling up of the crew. And if you want to do grand heists, I need a level 3 like locksmith or something. Now, how do I make them level 3? Should I be doing this while I'm already leveling up to make them higher as I go so they're ready for maps? Is it going to take a lot more than that? The new AI, like they've never done patrols before. They've never, ever done anything that we can like, ooh, we got to sneak. So now we can get caught. And if we get caught, we don't get the loot if we're not fast enough before we get locked out. And I'm like, that's kind of, I'm also wondering I don't think I could just smash my way through, because if I get locked out and don't get the artifact in time, it's kind of a failure, right? So I'm interested in that. Because they said like it's not timed, but there is kind of an element of alert that if I'm not careful, it's kind of timed in a sense. But I want to see how it feels to play, but it seems so integrated into like what they already like. They really thought about how and I'm going to be able to pick up loot in Delve and Lab. That's crazy. That's insane. In Delve and Lab right now, I can't even level up my poor
and temple,
flowers.
I think
They just
they said temple.
And temple and the temple. You know, the temple.
True.
You know, it just exists. It's just there doing stuff that isn't good. But I'm so excited for that. It's like what I've always wanted, a League mechanic that interacts with old League mechanics. And it's doing that. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited.
It's interesting that like one of the reasons that you like this one specifically because the stuff drops from those areas, it's like the actual League is not affecting those mechanics. It's just the fact that they can give you the reward to participate in the League that's kind of novel, because, you know, like we had Delirium and that legitimately affected other leagues.
Yeah.
As well as many other like realms of content.
Except it looked like it was going to affect Delve and it never did. And that was sad.
Yeah,
although that's so dangerous.
That was depressing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay. It's okay. We soldier on and daydream. Just say day drink. So I'm sorry.
We do that too, though. We come on, all right. It's 2020. We day drink here.
Okay. All right then. Shall I say what I thought upon watching and reading? The first impression, the thing that really left a mark for me is the feel. Like there is definitely a very distinct feeling of this, like atmosphere, I think was one of the words that somebody used before. It has a very flavor is what I use when I watch the stuff on stream, actually. So to me, this league has a very distinct flavor. It's like I know Gazzy's been campaigning on Twitter for, I'm going to say years, but I've seen it for months, for a pirate league from Bex. And pirates, we can all agree, have a very distinct flavor to them. And I feel like even though he probably disappointed that this isn't Pirate League, it's definitely got an equivalent level of flavor as Pirates. And to me, Harvest didn't have that. And I feel like I said this when I reacted to Harvest, although I don't know if I said it in Beta Expectations because it didn't exist at the time, that Harvest could have leaned in so hard to what gardening or farming literally is. And that has its own flavor, but they didn't. They tried to make it something else that didn't quite cohesively integrate with it. And there were so many different reasons like different directions, and it just seemed like a different bunch of different ideas were like thrown into one mess, and then visually it was disconnected as well to me. And this whole league has just like a very much very cohesive feel to it, and very like everything is deliberate. All of the mechanics are very much crafted around like a central idea and the Ocean's 11 thing and all that stuff. You know, like it's very much there. As far as the main sort of like pull away point is just like, I guess, the fail state thing, which doesn't put me off, but I want to see it play out like from start to finish. I found that like we haven't seen anything start and finish. It's just quick flashes. Unless you had access to the media kit, you couldn't even see extended experiences, especially grand heists. So not knowing what it looks like or feels like from start to finish makes it hard to be really committed to it, but I'm really excited to play it and see more. And I feel like if I want to lead into my next point, the difference between how much information has been given in our trailer and announcement posts, and then I want to say it's been 3 or 4 days since the announcement, and we've received 2 FAQ guides. We've had Bex break the GGG bot with how many questions she's answering. We've had Chris's interview with Ziggy, and then Chris's AMA on Reddit. So that's 5 different extended writing pieces with details about this league. And yet I still... like, the reason we all still feel like we have questions isn't because we haven't seen all 900 skill gems or all 100 unique replicas, but because we don't know what it looks or feels like, and there's a lot of mystery still. So what do you guys think of the huge wealth of information that they're trying to give us, and is it filling in all the gaps, or do you still have lots of questions? Because for me, I think that's my question. I'm like, what does it look like? Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I feel like that's me with every Path League. But what is this? What am I doing? Honestly, that was me with the garden. Actually, I don't even want to talk about it. That was me with the garden. That was me with the garden amplified by like 100. And what is this then? A disperser? I don't know. like everything I touched, I was like, what is this? I think that now Triple G to me always goes above. They give us like this much info, and we don't always need this much, because this much seems like a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not going to feel like that much when we actually play it. I feel that, so the passive collection, at least of the trinkets, I assume as I do regular heists, that's how I'll level my guys, and it will be fluid, so it won't feel as but there's a lot. There is a lot going on. There's a whole other area with new characters that, like, who are these people? Rogues? Is Hargan going to be in with them? You know, I have some questions. Even with all they've given me, I have more questions, but I don't know if I'm going to get them answered until I actually play it.
Yeah.
I think that's part of why they're having to answer so many questions, is because a lot of the times leagues just feel like tiny offshoots of things you already recognize, besides, let's say, Betrayal. That was a ton to learn and figure out right off the top.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the times you can kind of infer what you're going to do based on other mechanics, and it's pretty relevant. But yeah, as you said, this is a new location with new characters. And now you have side characters who you have to be concerned about their level. You have mechanics with the AI guarding the place where they can see what's going on, right? So now you have to worry about your side characters that you've geared up, and also like what's going to happen for minion builds. I think Chris did hint that minions can trigger the AI of the guards. And so, you know, if you're sitting there with your like 20 spiders, like the build that I just played, you're probably going to get caught. You're not going to be able to be sneaky. And so I think there's so many new offshoots of elements that are not familiar. Like you've never had, I mean, granted, you've had like an animated guardian, right? But that's not the same as something you're not controlling that you're gearing in an environment that you're not familiar with against mechanics that we haven't been introduced to with potentially new items and new rewards. It's just there's so many layers that we can't necessarily use our existing information to infer what's going to be good. We have no idea what stats our rogues are going to need. We have no idea what triggering is going to look like. Are they going to have cartoon, eye beams that show where the guards are looking? Like, I doubt it. We're going to have to figure that out. So I think that's why there's been so many questions. It's not a natural growth, but I also think that's what makes it exciting and interesting is because it's so different.
Hey, BK.
I see most of like the sort of what we've seen, this sort of outpouring of information is nothing more than quality assurance. They just had a league where people got in, they interacted with the garden infrastructure, went yuck, and then left. And so they're introducing another league with a lot of sort of complex micromanaging. And I feel like they're trying to make sure to kind of like assure everybody of they've thought it all the way through. It definitely works this time. It's easy. You already know how to craft gear, so you're just crafting this gear for your followers versus the gear that you would craft for yourself. It seems to roll very similarly to maps for in the sake of heist, and then almost like jewels for the follower materials as well. And I feel like more than anything else, this is just quality assurance in advance, just to make sure that if the trailer didn't sell you and you just have a bunch of questions and you think it's going to be too complicated, well, we're just going to go ahead and let you know, at least technically, all the different things that are going to go on and how to prepare for it and all of the, like as you interact with this content, the skills that you bring into it are going to suit you well. Just like rest assured, you're not going to have to learn new crafting systems in order to make your followers powerful. The extra trinket slot, it drops corrupted, so there's just literally nothing you can do. It's like a talisman. You either throw it on or you don't. And so I think it's a good thing. I worry sometimes that too much of the technical outpour is also going to be detrimental as much as it is helpful, because it's still that onslaught of information for a newer player that's like, oh God, no. Like, I'm barely learning this game as it is, and like it hasn't even started yet, and I've got all of this, all these different things I've got to read just to basically understand it. So I see it as like a two-part problem, but I'd rather much prefer this than the way they're handling it than to have some of the other side of the equation like we've had with certain leagues where it's like, figure it out. It's part of the league and there's like no information whatsoever. You're reliant on third-party tools or from the smart people on Reddit to actually like publish what they've done, like the garden plans and everything like that, to even be able to interact with it to begin with and start, harvesting higher tier seeds or manipulating your syndicate correctly or whatever it, insert blank mechanic here. So I think it's just a little bit of column A, column B. I think it's quality assurance and no, we've definitely thought it through this time. C, in addition to like, we just don't want people just to get completely overwhelmed. So we're going to try and lead you as much as possible through the stuff that's understandable. And they've been really selective with what they've done too, because they are definitely preserving larger parts of this for it to be one of those, when you see it, you'll get it experiences too. And I'm looking forward to that part of the league more than anything.
All right. So with that all being said, are we leaning towards stealth or loud strategies? Because we keep seeing evidence, I guess, or statements from GGG saying that a loud strategy is not going to be that punishing. So will you be loud or stealthy?
I'll probably be stealthy.
Both.
Oops.
Yeah. Stealthy first and just see if it's worth it, and then just bowl through a china shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a kind of a bit of a, sad feeling because it would have been cool to have had like more of the, when you play like the sneaking games that this is largely thematic after, whether it's Thief or what have you, there's always like ways to distract or like do a throw voice sort of spell where you can like make it go, hey, from across the room, and everyone turns around to that where it's that, and you get to sneak past them, or, you know, where you can hide bodies if you murder people and that sort of thing. Like, I understand that that was completely not doable, but you know, it would have been really cool to have seen some sort of aspect, even if it was something like a simple cloaking mechanism or something like an extra button you should push where you'd be invisible for like 4 seconds or something like that. But I'm sure scripting that, programming it, making it behave, and then putting that across all the different ascendancies, skills, gear, everything is probably just impossible. But I kind of wished it was there for people that would have wanted to utilize it.
They, while we were talking, they just showed us a new card, by the way.
What?
Called Desecrated Virtue. It's a 9 card with level 6 Awakened Support Gem, 23 quality.
What?
Oh,
Really?
oh, that's going to be something I don't receive. No.
Yes.
I don't get that lucky, but I like it. I like it a lot. I like that a lot.
New
New
chase card, maybe?
New chase card, yeah. If only we had the garden mechanic of double or nothing.
Yeah.
To then gamble. I would love to see that mechanic, like just make it so. I just want a double or nothing cards. That's so fun. That's so fun and a great way to just waste a bunch of money. But
so you want like Casino League?
Oh my god, the heist
Could
with
you
a casino
imagine?
league?
They would build us a casino. There would be different rooms.
That's all it is. You just waste your money away or make big money. You know, what's behind door number 3?
Oh my god, could you imagine if there was like The Price is Right, except it was like Paranda's coins?
And Plinko. I would play the hell out of that game.
Oh no.
I mean, I already have.
No.
It would take my addiction to this game to a new level. To a whole new level.
Oh god.
But if we're back on the topic of stealth, I just saw that card. I was like, wait, what's this?
That's okay. It's relevant.
I think we might have to be stealthy. I think they're like, it's not going to be that punishment. I saw how fast that alarm was going up. And they said once it's in lockdown, you can't get the item. So I feel like I have no choice. Or be like phase run and just zoom right through it, grab it quickly, you know, and not be stealthy per se, but kind of stealthy.
I'm trying to figure out how timers factor into it, because I've seen unequivocally that once the lockdown is triggered, you don't have a timer. Or it's like you fight your way out and you have an unlimited amount of time, but then in the video footage, there was a timer on the screen. But was that like counting down until the lockdown was triggered?
The timeout starts from when your alert level hits maximum and you have a chance before all of the chests lock, including the one that's got the artifact in it. So if you preemptively set off the alarm, you've got that timer to get to the main artifact thing, get it, and then after it runs down, you have to kill your way out. And all of the other boxes, or the ability to loot the boxes, goes away. You can pick up what I guess might come off of the floor. I don't know if we know if the mobs in there drop loot. I don't remember seeing it or not. But that's the only timer. The timer in and the timer out are non-existent. It's just threat level in and don't die on the way out.
Right. Okay.
I literally just felt a bit of panic at the idea of not being able to pick up all the loot in the timer. I'm like, oh my god, what if I leave chests though? I'm not even playing it yet. And I was like,
I feel like 20 seconds is GGG saying to you, Vel, specifically, that you only get to have 20 seconds worth of what you can grab.
Yeah,
it's
good.
like that. It's that thing where you're in, I don't know, like where you've just got to be like, grab what's nearest to you and then go.
I need more time to make decisions. It feels like Guff all over again. Oh, craft this within 8 seconds. I don't have enough time to do that. I can't think.
I don't even do those anymore. It's too stressful. I just panic every time.
I mean, part of it is like the knowing the contract or the blueprints well enough and like having studied it and having a good understanding of what you're going into, and then the way that they make the like plentifulness of markers and contracts sound is that, you know, you can repeat this a few times and get practiced at it.
Hopefully.
That's true. And actually, that just made me think, I don't know if I've seen everything. I read through the second FAQ, and I don't know if I finished the first one, but is there any way to, like, target farm certain types of contracts? It sounds like they're expecting you to have a variance of leveled rogues because you'll get different ones, but I wonder if there's any way to, like, decide or, like,
I haven't seen anything about target farming stuff, but every time target farming comes up as a topic of discussion, and I feel like this is especially relevant around bestiary because weren't certain monsters available in certain areas? Yeah. That's like the last time that's happened. And the only other version of that is specific bases in specific regions. It could be like another really nice time where they could implement target farming, and it just seems to never be a priority. But if somebody else has thoughts on that, please let me know.
I mean, delve in a way, just different biomes target different fossils. So that's another way. And then I guess not really with seeds. But I have noticed, in a sense, target farming headhunters with fractured maps, with fractured delirium maps. That's been a thing. People have been going after headhunters with Xana rarity or Quantus rarity maps. That's been a big one. That's why headhunters are now like 30 exalt. They've gone down to nothing.
Shit.
In comparison. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, they're at 30 exalt right now.
If you take time away from this game, the weirdest stuff happens.
Yeah. Well, once people figured out that they could put 100% delirium, fracture on the Xana mod, make it like the buffest of all maps, and then just drop like 3 headhunters in a map and a ton of doctors. Now it's just right down the drain.
Okay. Next question, I guess I'm going to go back to something that we sort of touched on earlier. So we've got a number of new characters. I think it's something like 13 or something. And I don't know if the NPCs are included in that count, or if there's like, at least there's like 3 or 4 of them in town, in the new island place that we're going to. Does anyone have a favorite NPC at first glance?
I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I do not know. I've only seen like 2 guys. So I don't know. I watched the video, but I feel like, who are these people? I don't know yet. I don't know them enough.
I saw a really nice fan art, and now I kind of am just going to be looking for that one guy for a while now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's the Big Daddy one. Yeah, that's what the name of the fan art was called.
Okay, I need to see this Big Daddy.
Have a look on PoE Reddit. I think it's the chat saying it's Daddy Tebs.
Daddy Tebs, huh?
Yeah, right, in the fan art, he had a really rippling bod.
Okay, wait. I just put in Big Daddy Tebs PoE, and we'll see what I get.
Oh.
Big Daddy too much?
The pause?
Listen, I'm looking. Somebody else speak.
All right. No particular rogues that individually interesting to me right now, but I do have to say that the character design overall is pretty well done and believable, and I really, really appreciate that, because with some of the MTX sets that we've had and mystery boxes that we've had in the last year or two, I was really worried that some of the NPCs and character designs were going to start to kind of meander as well. And they all look like they belong in Rayclass, and that is a big plus for me. And as always, I love the quality and care that GGG puts into the voice acting for things like this, especially after Synthesis and Betrayal. And so I'm sure one will definitely emerge as a favorite after we get to hear them and meet them and talk to them and interact with them more. But it's just kind of hard to, from trailer clips and stuff.
You can
Yeah.
see. Yeah, did you find him?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Ooh.
Oh my. Oh my.
Yeah.
He's quite buff.
It's
my
quite
goodness.
the fan art.
All right.
I bet he has the V in this fan art.
Mm.
But you know what, Brittle? You are totally correct in that this is I feel the first time in a while, like this is really, really in sync with our lore. Bunch of rogues, stealing items.
Yeah.
It's really, we're all exiles. It's really good.
I'm trying to find her name, but she's like the main rogue, and I think you can see her picture on the announcement page. I wanted to disagree a little bit with BK, actually, because I feel like she's the most plain-looking one out of everyone who's been introduced, and I'm sad.
But they're
Oh yeah.
exiles. Like, what are they supposed to have? Gigantic sets of armor, every single one of them? I mean,
They're rogues.
yeah, I don't know. I think like being tattered and whatnot, sure. I mean, like some of it is a bit gratuitous, but hey, she's hot. I'll say it. But, you know,
All
like
rogues are
there's
leather daddies.
there's gonna be, you know, like varying. There's gonna be people that have like more armor stuff because maybe they're less, you know, sneaking around and more bashing down doors. And then there's gonna be some that have, you know, like light or medium class leather or other types of clothing because they're more lithe and stealthy. And it just is gonna be about their personality and who they are and what they do.
Okay, I've been put in my place. It's fine.
It's not about putting it in your place.
No,
I
I'm
just
kidding.
think
I'm
that,
kidding. It's
you know,
fine.
she's kind of like Lady Rambo, and that's okay.
All right, then.
Isn't that Maramoa?
Yes. Oh, yes, it is.
Maramoa's Lady Rambo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the character names because I was trying to see if there was anything that I could, you know, latch on to say, oh, this is a tie that's already existing in the game. Didn't find anybody, and I kind of agree that, like, you don't really get to know them personally, like, individually in the trailer, but as you'd mentioned before, Pi, the flavor of the whole group and the whole situation feels really, like, full. It has its own specific aesthetic, if you will, and it does match. You're not, you know, going to a rogue who's wearing golden, just glimmering armor and like has a cat floating next to them, although I wouldn't mind that either. But I wanna know more about the cat with the eye patch. I think that's the only character that I was like, who is that? I want to know more. Are you a character that I can interact with?
Yeah.
I've already had someone make me an emote. That's just my cat with an eye patch.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's the only one that I was like, all right, I need to know more about this cat. But yeah, there's no real ties that I could find to any other existing characters. It does seem like there's some Karui in there. So it's an interesting group, but that's about all I can glean.
Do we want to go a bit more into the lore side of it? Do you have anything else to add? Oh, okay.
I'll
cool.
tell you.
Yes?
That cat is probably just real Xana, you know, the Russian one, trapped. And the other Xana with the frills is the imposter Xana. Yeah.
The replica Xana?
Oh, like from the
That's
Atlas?
the replica Xana.
Like she was too long in the Atlas, and now Russian Xana got trapped and turned into a cat, and now there's imposter Xana. All right, next video planned.
Yeah.
Done. Got it.
Imposter Xana took over her real Xana's daddy's powers, and now the Elder's powers, and she's just sucking up powers. That's her plan, and she's going to turn into Calandra. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that's why she's trying to keep people out of the Atlas, because they might find Cat Xana.
The real,
Oh man,
yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The greatest theory I've ever heard. Like,
but on a more serious note, although that's a great theory, and I might just have to make a little tiny video just because that's hilarious. Like,
and then what if?
I couldn't find any ties of existing characters, but I do think just the general idea of going into vaults and stealing things makes me think of the Pirandis, because Kadiro took all of their money out of the city, and that's why Janice, you know, he's poor when Jun and the Order find him, but like he's hidden all of this loot somewhere, and like they're known for having vaults and mansions, and I just think that seems like the most logical fit. I don't really know who else is a dirty hoarder besides me and the Parandis family, so
every one of us deep down inside. Let me see your stash. Show me what you got. I bet you're hoarding just as bad.
You don't want to see it. You don't want to see it.
Show me your standard tabs. What you
like
guys got hiding in there?
That's a real level of vulnerability when you're willing to show someone your standard tabs.
That's intimate.
Do you want to look at my collection of bubbles?
Okay, Val, if you had to put a patch on one of your cats, which one would it be?
Well, I would have to be Lily because she looks the most she's the most.
Yeah.
I mean, they're actually both in bed because they're old. They're old and sleepy, so they're both in bed. I can't show. But Lily is the prime. Yeah, she would go for it. I'm actually considering getting her a monocle, but how am I going to stick it on her? That's going to be an adventure for later.
Oh man, I almost want one. All right. New interesting topic to discuss. What do you guys think of the medium core-ness of this league? Like the soft hardcore nature, I guess? Like the fact that you'll lose your items if you don't completely leave through the exit.
I like this because, locking out, we all like to do the cheese, but is the cheese really fun in the end? Very rarely it's actually satisfying, right? So I like that idea, but like, if I lose all my good stuff, I spent all this time, I don't want to lose it. I'm kind of conflicted. I'm a very good player, so I probably won't. No.
When I was taking a sip.
But I might. There's, only like a 1% chance I might.
Okay. All right. Noodle, what do you think of medium core?
As much as I hate losing loot and having consequences for any of my actions, I think it's probably a good idea. I think that it will be exciting, but not too punishing. But also, I have a feeling it will probably be easier to lose your loot the more you have to lose, if that makes sense. And so it'll be a delicate balance between being greedy and actually getting to keep everything. And I think I honestly think it's a good compromise. What do you think, Brittle?
The idea of medium core, as far as the way it exists here, is certainly an interesting concept. It's not new to Heist, though. We've had more and more fail states being introduced to the game in varying degrees of aggressiveness for some time now. I mean, from the abysses just simply halting if you didn't clear enough around them, you didn't get a chest, or, an abyssal depths, to the incursion rooms, if you didn't have enough damage to kill an architect, you didn't level up the room, or you didn't get a key to unlock a door, and, getting murdered by intervention syndicate members, and even delve progress. If you die in a delve, you lose your sulfite. And even the end game right now is centered around a fail state, right? The difference in why this is suddenly a problem is the tangibility of it. And I think that, like, a lot of people have been talking about this. And you don't get Awaken Multi-Strike to hold until you kill Cyrus. So there's this whole other layer of, feeling to this that we've never had before. And there is a lot of potential for this to feel equally exhilarating, adding this like layer or feeling compelled to defend this new shiny thing that you desperately want to keep, to this sort of heartbreak of getting wiped out and watching it pile onto the floor, and you just have to release and go back to checkpoint. And this is, they're really going to have to do everything possible to rapidly balance and patch sources of disconnects, even mob density, if it affects performance. Like, they are going to have to do everything that they can to get this right, because this is what is going to break the league. And they have to hit the balance just right with the contracts themselves too, like, so that even if you do fail one, you're not completely broken by this experience. Like, if it happens a couple times in the row, you just don't say like F that and just don't play the rest of the league. So they're going to have to really fine tune this so that it's, not the end of the world if you do fail, and it's not too easy to not fail either. And it's not something that feels like, when you don't kill Cyrus and you get 4 9-track conquerors to get back to Cyrus. Like, it's got to have like all of these little micromanagey levels of balance as far as getting the feel of this just right. And I'm optimistic that in a couple of weeks we'll have it, and I'm less optimistic we'll get it on release. But I hope they get really close. I really hope they get that little bit close, because this is a really neat concept. And even though for hardcore players, they've been dealing with this for years. I mean, like, if you rip, you don't get the Awakened Molten Strike anyways. But for softcore players, it's entirely different, and it's going to make us think about builds entirely different as well. And as like a build creator, I've been trying to make my builds more defensive and less glass cannony over the last 2 years. So like, this already aligns with some of my build design beliefs anyways. So I'm really interested to have this extra layer or extra compulsion besides just a boss fight to be tough all the time. And I think that's good for the game overall. Like, because I'm not just like layering defenses for Cyrus, I'm layering defenses for everything now, and that's good.
I had a really cool thought and it's gone now. I feel like the thing with losing your loot, and then this has been reiterated by quite a few different streamers, I think now, is just the difference between this one and the previous fail states is that your loot was in your inventory, and it stays in your inventory, and this is the first time that it's going to leave your inventory. Except in the case that I remember when I first started playing with Incursion League and picking up the powder kegs or the stones for unlocking the doors and not understanding that they had to stay in those zones. So if you leave or you run out of time, they disappear. And it took me like quite a few times to realize that was why they weren't still in my inventory. It's kind of like, I guess it's almost like leaving a lab with keys in your inventory and wondering why you don't have keys still or something like that. I assume that's the kind of the equivalent. And I suppose to that end that the item should sort of be treated more like a quest item until you've finished the quest of the heist, maybe. Does that make sense? Like, it should be green.
So how big are they all going to be? If they're going to be like a full size of a staff, some of them? Because I don't, can we fit it all? can we carry it all?
Yeah, I do wonder about the inventory size as well.
I think that it's actually important, though, because if you just made them all quest items that just turn into random stuff, like say it was all like the curios, but called different things and different sizes and shapes and everything like that. You just loot a bunch of curios and then you go to the fence and drop them in inventory, and it spits out like a stack of like 4 different types of currencies and like some miscellaneous stuff back out you. Then the danger and the I really want to keep this and how do I get out of here? Like, you lose all of that instantly when it's just a bunch of nothing's sort of weird quest item green things that don't mean anything to you. And then you just basically play like the Gilded Fossil, like vendors more is more valuable to vendor kind of roulette of turning those in and getting stuff spit back out at you. And so, like, I think it's actually important that it remains in his loot, that you understand and have, because, like, what is personally valuable to you may not be personally valuable to another player and their loot filter and their strictness and how they like to play the game. And there'll be people that, need rare upgrades, or it's an SSF run, so you have to pick up every single unique because you don't know if you're going to see it again. So I think that the fact that the loot is just normal loot is actually really important to the overall feel and design of the league. I would hate to see it stripped down to, more than what it is as far as like the artifact is returned for turning that in and then getting the marks and stuff back. If it was all sort of like that vendor interaction, I don't think it would feel good.
Oh yeah, I don't think I would want it to be a vendor interaction, but I feel like for me, in my head, I'm just going to think of it this way, that I'm going to think of them as quest items until I leave, and then they like magically change to regular items. That makes sense to me. I don't know why.
That might work until you find an exalt, and then it's panic.
Shh. We won't talk about that. Hopefully my RNG is better this league. Well, I mean, we kind of went into the area of talking about loot, so maybe we should spend a bit more time on it. So yeah, I guess I might reiterate, there's 100 Replica Uniques. Is there anything standing out to you guys straight away? I think Noodle wanted to
I would just like to meme on the fact that they're doing a Replica Bitter Dream, which is the only item I will never pick up. Every time I see it, I'm like, no, you cannot make me. I will not vendor you. You are not worth my time. You stay there. So making a new one, I think that the new supports look interesting. It's like Innervate and Immolate and Elemental Proliferation and a few other things. It does look better. And I thought that it was interesting that Chris mentioned that some of the replicas will be worse. Like he objectively said that they will be worse than the originals, where some will be better. And obviously I think this is better, but can it make me pick it up? I don't know yet.
So we were talking about this before we started, but the meme Bitter Dream as elemental penetration, which doesn't exist anywhere else in game. That support doesn't exist. It's a new support.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you find that replica, you pick that up because you've got a gem that no one else has.
That's true. For that, yeah.
Oh, it's
I guess if it still vendors the same way, then that would be a use for it. Well, I guess I might pick one up this time.
Just one, though. Just the one. Anything more in the garbage.
Apparently, it's also on the Shroud of Likeness, I think.
Yeah, say it's the same probably as what's in Shroud, but you can't vendor Shroud for it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you just get the currency.
Can I just mention that they have given us a lot of different corpse explosions? I don't know.
I noticed that.
They have decided that we need to explode corpses, and I love this because, right now my current Delve build is using a corpse explosion chest piece, and I don't want to make that next league. So I am very much looking forward to not making that next league if I can just use some corpse explosion-y. Isn't there like a curse one? And then
the
black hole
and Doom Blast.
Yep, that's it.
The curse one, the Doom Blast, doesn't actually explode your corpse. It just creates explosions from the enemies. This was something that I mentioned when I first watched all of the reveal stuff, because I was like, wait, do we have new corpse removal? Because I just remember Rise ranting about corpse removal from like Delirium. And so now I am like on the lookout for corpse removal whenever it happens.
Well,
and
that's what Void Spirits.
This one doesn't count. This one just makes explosions. It doesn't explode the bodies.
Punishment got a rework, a really exciting rework that also does explosion. But corpses in this game have been a problem for like a really, really, really long time. Like back in the day, there used to be this map mod Fracture, and it would fracture enemies. And then they would make more enemies. And then sometimes there'd be so many enemies that it'd crash the whole map. Unless you had corpse explosion. Yeah. So they had to take out fracture enemies like regular mobs because it would crash the instance. So I imagine that this is going to make the performance of the game go a lot smoother if people use more corpse removal.
But we also have this new sucky void sphere thing.
Yeah, the vacuum
big sucky.
That's also the name for it.
That's what it is now.
But we were talking about loot. We can switch to skills if we want to talk about skills.
It's a part of loot.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think as far as them evaluating harvest and going, all right, well, what's the one thing that everybody fucking crafted exploding chests.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe we
Exploding
should
chests.
give people more access to that.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
true.
People seem to really prioritize it, so maybe we should just do that. And there's the use of punishment itself as a skill was pretty niche, so I think that rework was pretty good because punishment is now no longer melee only either. So it's like a global curse now, and more global curses are always a good thing.
Honestly, just 2 weeks ago, I was omega lolling about punishment and how little bit it's used. So I'm very excited. Like, I was just punishment. Who uses that?
Yeah,
Now I'm
I
like,
like
oh,
the rework
shit.
a lot. I think it's really interesting because it's our first, like, almost execute phase, sort of like so in World of Warcraft, like when bosses reach certain lower percent, like certain abilities would pop up for certain types of classes. And punishment sort of is like one of those sort of mechanics in this game. So when things are on low life, they take increased damage. So it's like you almost get like an execute phase sort of like built into the game now. And that's like really cool.
Yeah, I like that. I like this. It's really what do you think about the firewall?
Oh, I am very intrigued by Firewall, especially the interaction with projectiles.
Mm.
I am going to have to figure out a way to do something with that. I don't necessarily know how good it will be, but looking at like the altered anger that had increased burning damage as well, and then using Firewall and then projectiles that would have, I believe they said that it has fire and burning on the projectiles now. There's going to be some interesting mechanics, and I think that's maybe something they're drawing from PoE 2, right? Where they've introduced, your arrows stick in walls. So now having other interactions with projectiles of, it goes through fire and now it's on fire and does fire damage. I think that is really exciting and makes me wonder about all the different kinds of interactions. Like, is it just going to be arrow skills? Is it going to be, God forbid, a steel skill that they're trying to bring back? I still don't like you, Lancing Steel. I don't trust you. But
what about
the interaction will be cool.
What's wrong with Lancing? What has Lancing Steel done to you?
I think it's another series, like how we were talking about, I think it was on our first episode, the structuring of leagues, how we have a slow league and then the league kind of more oriented around loot. So we had like, Legion followed by, like Blight, which was slower. And then we had, Delirium, which was a little bit faster. And so like how we had like when you fall asleep at the wheel, you have the sort of thing when you're driving along that slows you down and wakes you up. I feel like this sort of prevalence between these like combination skills that we're seeing introduced here, whether it's the curse or the firewall, and this sort of, take on positioning being a tactic, is sort of like a gradual sort of like pulling on the reins to pull back on us to maybe not move so fast as they're trying to kind of imagine the way PoE is going to be played. And they've sort of realized that they have to do it by giving us what we want out of it. So like curses have to explode to make us cast them. And, like damage if you're going to make me click another spell before clicking another spell. Like, so it seems like they're trying to like make it enticing for the player base they know they have in order to get us to kind of like maybe put the brakes on a little bit.
My exposure just went to the max. Give me a moment.
Yeah, I was looking at that like, whoa.
I don't even know how to fix it other than going into OBS. I was
concerned that there was like an explosion or something. Like,
yeah, nothing changed. It's just my camera is stupid. So give me a second.
Like, everything. Firewall.
A firewall. Boom.
I love that they tried to call it Flame Wall, and that's what its name is, but no one's going to call it that. It's all going to be called Firewall by everyone.
I honestly didn't even catch that I was saying Firewall instead of Flame Wall.
No, seriously. It's not just you. Everybody who's talking about it and isn't reading from something is calling it Firewall. Because it's a wall of fire. Duh.
That's glowy brain. That's
just like my glowy face.
So what BK mentioned, I've definitely noticed is that in general, they're trying to find ways to make players slow down and actually experience some of the content. And a lot of the time that has experienced significant pushback. And I think it's interesting. I wonder if that's tied into them saying that there will not be significant consequences for bowling your way through a heist, but that it will, you can be sneaky if they're just trying to ease us into basically you're going to have to be sneaky and you're actually going to have to maybe slow down like a little bit if you want to succeed. They're trying to break it to us easy.
The flame wall firewall introduction did see a bunch of people discussing frost wall as well, and I even think I saw in an FAQ or AMA that like there was no plans for the frost wall to have anything, and I was like, oh, poor frost wall. Yeah, like make something that has arrows that go through it and light on fire, but by all means, don't worry about the ice guy. I'm gonna have to find where that AMA was, but I'm pretty sure it's the Chris AMA where it's like, if this is happening, what do you think about this? Anyway, do any of them?
Maybe they're just literal, like, yeah, because you can't shoot arrows through ice forehead. Like, maybe that's just going to be their excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing a game that has magic and thaumaturgy, but arrows going through ice. No way.
Well, chat said if you shot an arrow at it and then it popped out, like if it made the ice shatter and pop out the other side because it was shot with such velocity.
Or
that's the word.
It turned into water in that one moment so that your arrow can go through it. And then, what about that, huh? Like Avatar. Yeah.
Yeah, we're water bending now.
We're water benders.
Ice shrapnel off of it, if you shoot a projectile, could be a thing.
Yeah.
More logically, I guess. I don't know. Logic in my ARPG.
Logic in my video games, mate.
Don't know how to fix my cam, so we're just living in darkness now. It's better than radioactive lights. I don't know. My gain just went up to 255 and now it won't go down. It's like, you want all of it? No, I don't. I want none.
Oh, God. I'm so worried for you.
Technical difficulties.
Should we discuss favorite alt skill gem so far?
Yes. Blade Vortex, Life Leech. Very exciting. Very exciting.
Quality of life on that one, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Big time. And Rain of Arrows, additional arrow volley or something, like a 10% chance, which is still pretty sexy. A whole 10% chance? I like it. Although in Path, 10% is like 0.01%, but it's good enough. I'll take it. I'll just attack very fast.
It's enough to try.
Yeah. Yeah, the new Blade Vortex, and that one was like really exciting. What about you?
BK?
I don't think it's going to be like super overpowered or anything, but I'm very curious about the Creeping Frost one where chilling areas have increased movement speed. I'm wondering, like, speaking on the topic of water bending, just go sliding around on your ice all pro, like, But I was planning on doing a Creeping Frost build this week this league, upcoming league, just because I was very curious about it. Arctic Breath was kind of meh, but Creeping Frost seems really cool. I've never done Cold Dot at all. So it seemed like a good excuse to. And then sure enough, they tease, something neat about it. So we'll see. I don't know if it'll be super overpowered or anything like that, but I'm curious and intrigued and want to try it.
Noodle?
Honestly, I've looked at some of them. I didn't have any that particularly stood out to me. Because I just want to see more of them. And honestly, I'm too lazy to do all the comparisons of what changed. So
I feel you.
I didn't look a ton at them because I want to see more, and especially more of the skills that they'll be bringing out. So.
Yeah, there was a Blazing Salvo skill that wasn't included in the trailer, but we've seen like a screenshot of it on the announcement page because it wasn't ready for the trailer, and I think there's going to be a video of it soon. which I'm curious about. And kind of overall with elemental skills, they've just kind of come back and been like elemental. Elemental seems to be a big push lately. Having said that, of course, like the support on curses is a chaos support. I'm not saying like they did other stuff, but I just feel like there's a bit of elemental coming through that's kind of more so than it's been in the past. And I kind of noticed it more because of Brittle's rant in the first episode about how elemental ranges don't really exist anymore. And I was like, it's not really a fix for that, but it's definitely nice to see the direction shift that way.
I'm sorry, it takes an entire base, turning its base physical damage into flat fire damage to make Ellie hit viable again. That's so frustrating. Yeah. That's not the problem. I mean, it's cool because now you can play Fire Ellie hit again and it actually feels compelling and good. But no, it needs to be solved in a more global way than just here's the fire damage, now shut the fuck up.
I mean, I didn't think it was fixed. It just seemed like a shift to me, like a noticeable shift. And it's like, I don't think I've played a proper elemental build in a while, besides the last thing was Cold Snap and Vortex and bloody Metamorph League, I think.
I want more elements.
Yeah. So maybe that's me. I'm keen to see anything else on that announcement side.
I want more physical spells, and I want them to call it earth magic. I want them to give me air magic. I want to tornado people off the screen. Just get out of here.
I want air.
Have you just been watching Avatar?
No, actually, I hate Avatar. I do. I downright hate it. All right, we want to get into the side things, Zuko?
No, not now, but...
That's right.
Okay,
don't get me started.
I think we're all going to have to go get a pair of sock and boppers and solve this like adults because I don't know if we can be friends.
Yeah, no.
Could have fixed the whole problem in the first episode. All right? You just had to deal with the fire dude, all right? All you had to do was kill the guy. He was the Avatar. He could have done it, but no, I'm a child. I can't go kill him.
He's an 11-year-old vegan. He doesn't even kill
He was 111. Okay? He lived in ice for 100 years.
Yeah, which means that he didn't have any growth or maturity over that time period.
Yeah, but he was supposed to go and listen to the past avatars, and they all said, "Yo, kill that dude," and he's like, "I can't, I can't." Okay.
Did we sally on down this tangent for a little bit?
No.
I will tell you
after
Uncle Ira and Appa, they're the best things about that show.
I mean, Uncle Ira is undisputably the best.
Yeah, he's the best. And then Appa is definitely second best. And that's enough to watch the whole show. That kept me invested the whole way through.
Okay, at least you watched it.
I watched the whole thing.
That's true. I will give you that.
Yeah. And they were worth it. They were worth it, but the rest of the cast, they can go to hell. Yeah.
I forgot that we almost had this disagreement when I popped into your stream a while back, actually.
As you can tell, it's very contentious.
It is.
Talking about things that make me angry, they're revamping steel skills. And I just have a bad spot in my heart from trying Lancing Steel when it first came out. And how absolutely terrible it was because you couldn't scale it with anything. It was so painful. And so I'm wondering, for one, will anybody here try a steel skill? Because spoilers, I will not. But two, do you think they'll fix the tag system? Or how do you think their changes are going to do anything if they don't fix that?
I want to say the shard mechanic seems to be like their band-aid to it, but if they do other stuff to support the skills, then they might be worth playing. But I'm curious about this shard thing because to me it just smacks of visual clutter again. Or it's like a way to make, I don't know, it's kind of like a brand version, like you do the skill and then now you've got these things that follow you around. The old version of brands, I don't know. There's something about it to me that's like, did you make it into, like, it's steel skills are now a steel skill, not a fizz skill. But I need more information on that one, and no one's asking questions about it.
Because nobody cares about them.
I think it's one of those things where they have a clear idea of sort of like this archetype that they're trying to create, but maybe there's some issues with implementation wise. Because the idea of like this sort of like shrapnel turret sort of play style, even though it's like melee, and it says air quotes here, melee, just the way, the other types of air quotes melee are. So I think it's very interesting as a mechanic, and I kind of like the idea of this sort of like perpetual regeneration period with this all like alternative like skill that you use now. Because again, these are 2-button builds. It's either firewall and projectiles, or ED contagion, or now you have the shard call and steel skins or steel skills now too, where it's kind of creating this dynamic of like either refilling your shards or letting them, go off and split off and help you clear. And it's sort of, I don't know, like creating these new archetypes that are built around combinations rather than just like I'm using my main skill over and over again and clearing entire packs. And there's sort of like this dynamic gameplay thing that's trying to happen. And I think steel skills, sorry, I keep saying steel skin instead of steel skills, are pretty like mechanically interesting. But yeah, as far as like all I've got is Impale. And there's some ways to scale it, which is cool, but
well, I felt very betrayed by Lancing Steel because the mechanics sounded so interesting, and that usually is a draw for me, kind of regardless of how absolutely OP I think something will be. If I think it will bring in a different or interesting playstyle for a build, I'll try it out. And obviously, as we've seen, Impale has been very successful in other skills. I mean, it's huge. It's added into basically anything where you're doing a lot of physical hits. You're going to want Impale on there. It's great. So I think the shards could potentially, since there are more hits, depending on how it works, feed back into the initial attempt at introducing Impale. But yeah, I mean, Lancing Steel is not a melee skill. It's a physical projectile, and there's really not enough tags to scale it well. And so I'm wondering, I would like to see more about the shard element, but I do worry about visual clutter. And I'd just like to say, I'm not going to try it. But if you out there are brave enough to try a steel skill, tell me what happens. Tell me if you like it. I'm very curious.
I thought it was also pretty funny that we got that MTX cloak of like this squadron of crows behind you. And then all of a sudden we see a steel, the steel skill or a scale or a skill. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say that right now. The extra shards that fly around behind you. It's like, oh, well, that was just a test for this new mechanic that they're going to add. And they just turned around and shipped it as an MTX. Like, enjoy your birds.
Those birds feel so random too. Like, oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah, it's like we were all wondering like where the hell this came from, and some people are like, oh, pioneering new cloaks, and wings shouldn't always be wings, but it's like, oh, this is just maybe some field testing for this other skill that now we understand. And the other thing that I'm curious about too is that if these extra shards, I'm curious to know if these are possibly sources of flat physical to augment the base damage of the steel skills as well. And if that would then make up for, like the lack of certain things like the Herald of Purity change in regards to, those specific skills having more scalability that the flat fizz comes from their augment.
Mm. I wonder this too. I kind of want to circle back on something. So the curse thing, they're making us incentivized to self-cast cursed, which reminds me of like the incentive to self-cast war cries and everything, and running a bunch of war cries, and how, like, for me, I'm wondering, what's the overall goal with this in conjunction with the current Flask meta? Because I don't have enough fingers for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my poor wrists in carpal tunnel. All this clicking of all these different things. Is this just going to be now a way to be spells with extra steps? Like war cries or melee with extra steps? Now it's spells with extra steps, maybe?
Yeah. It does kind of seem like a one-to-one of, we want people to slow down in the game a little bit, make them press more buttons.
Yes.
And we're like,
yes.
our hand can't press more buttons, GGG, please, no.
Yeah, and that's pretty funny because Chris was like, okay, fine, we'll look into it during the last AMA, like on Bay class. Like, we're like, our hands are actually rejecting our bodies, popping off of our wrists and leaving us forever. We cannot play your game. And he was like, no, it's not a problem. And we're like, really, it's a problem. He's like, all right, maybe we'll talk about it. And it's like, this just in, more buttons, more at 10. It's like, no, I don't think you understood.
That's like one of the discussion topics I think that keeps coming up now is like, as game designers, do you have a responsibility to prevent RSI in your players? And I remember this being part of the discussion in the Bayclast episode with Chris. And he was like, it's up to them to limit how much they play. And it's like, no, you can totally design game with downtime to it. Other games manage to achieve it. Why not this one?
They know I am fully addicted to this game. I want to vol things. I want to alt things. I just got to go get some money, get some stuff, right? Like, I got to do this. I'm addicted.
Yeah.
I can't just stop. And then what am I going to gamble on? I need it for gambling.
I don't want to be in any way like putting words in anyone's mouth, but I think it's disingenuous to suggest on a podcast with a bunch of streamers that people should just play less. That's a little bit of cognitive dissonance there, no offense, but really, that's not, I don't think that's what you actually want to happen. And it's not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you want... They've succeeded at making a game that makes people want to play often and, you know, for a long time and all that stuff. Like, make it enjoyable for the body?
Well, okay.
No.
I can't expect games. Okay.
Punishment. Maybe not the full spectrum thing. Although GGG does like to do the full spectrum. They're like, oh, you have RSIs? Well, now we sent a team to massage your feet. And you're like, well, no, hold on. Somewhere in between those two.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. The internet.
Pie just make it good for our whole bodies.
I broke pie.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, just
to pull it back.
You want them to add a vibrate feature pie, like massage our wrists. You guys are experiencing RSI. Every time you hit your flask, your fingers will tingle.
What was PK gonna say?
I was going to say, to pull it back in, though, like, I think it's bad as a company to put so much of effort or so much of the responsibility on a player, because, like, you design a game because you want people to play it a lot and to spend money on it because they play it a lot, and to completely push that problem as a player problem just sends a very bad message. Sure, there are stretches that you can do that will help with hand and wrist coordination and strength, etc. And there are, you know, between the stretches and everything else, and then limiting play times, having breaks, etc. Like, there are things that you can do to look after your own health, to try and minimize it as much as possible. But whether it's playing a video game or doing something like bouldering, if you do a repetitive task, there is always going to be wear on the body. And the solution will always be to reduce the number of repetitive tasks. And that is nothing a player can do. I mean, even to casual gameplay, if you go from a job where you work in a factory that's very hands-on, and you go and you play a PoE in the evenings, like, that's still not going to be friendly from your hands. You can't assume that every person's coming into the game with like perfect health either. Like,
In
In
and
fact,
what about like racers? Racers alone, which already promotes a, we go hard. I don't even race, and I go hard, and they go harder.
with
And
the
then they got to click
sleeping and
all
all
these
that
other
stuff,
buttons.
yeah.
You know, yeah, you gotta think about they have a really robust racing community, and
I just if it comes down to them just not wanting to redo that part of the system and have that extra development time or what. Because the concept is pretty simple and it's something that could be honestly utilized in PoE is like either, I think at one point in time they called it like having the flashback on like a small cooldown or something like that. They never run out, but they're on small cooldowns. Like whatever the implementation is, it would have to have game-wide redesign and game-wide balance.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's simpler to just not do the thing. And I think, unfortunately, with how pinched they are for certain other development processes, etc., I don't know. It sucks because people are honestly getting hurt over it too, and that's the part that kind of makes me a little angry.
I mean, I just am still, I would say I'm pretty much recovered. I still can't use a normal mouse, but I can use my vertical mouse now from an RSI that lasted almost a month. And yeah, I mean, it's the second one that I've had playing PoE for 4 years.
I guess because we're on this tangent, I feel compelled to point out that accessibility issues in this game are just largely ignored.
That's very true.
If you can't, if you have a visual impairment, you're fucked. No offense.
No colorblind mode, no controller support on PC yet. I mean, at least that's coming. They confirmed in one of the AMAs that controller support is coming. But yeah, there's a lot.
I can't even imagine what it's like to pick things up with a controller. I'm just so much loot on the ground.
Aaron does it.
Yeah, he does, right? It's a lot. Must have good loot filter.
I mean, can they even have loot filters in the console version?
I think they just have basic, right? No, they just have like the ones Triple G gave them.
Yeah, I think there's tiers to it too. I think they have like the ability to control certain things, but I don't know how customizable it is.
Yeah. So I'll be interested. Self-casting curses. How much is it going to be used? How much will it break our hands? Will it be worth breaking our hands over? Nothing's worth, but maybe.
That's the real question.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've mentioned, everybody likes exploding their enemies. Yeah. That's a nice touch. But I don't know. I think I don't necessarily want to go completely zoom fast, but I also don't like start and stop play styles. And to be able to utilize Doom Blast does seem like a lot of start and stop because it's like one curse and then you have to use an alternate curse, I think, to kind of stop the curse. The initial curse is impending doom, so you get the Doom Blast, so the curse is over. And it just seems like a little bit, I don't know. I'll probably watch other people first and see. I might start off with something with Flame Wall because I'm very intrigued by that. But I will watch and see if other people think that it's better than, I don't know, Bane.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw the curse thing and was like, Bane. And then they were like, oh, self-cast. And I was like, oh. So, not Bane?
Yeah.
No. Who does
Bane
that?
with extra steps.
Bane with extra steps. Oh. Dude.
I think there's a couple more things that I had on the list of things we might want to talk about. But probably, I know it's early, but does anybody have any starter build ideas that are rattling around in your head or something that you definitely want to try next league yet?
Keeping Frost is on my menu. Definitely BV now with the accessibility to spell leech, whether you're elemental or poison, that's big. I've been fiddling around with some mines and traps just because Salvo is such a great starter. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I was thinking Blade Vortex because I haven't played since Betrayal, since they did me a dirty and they took away my Warlord's Mark ring, and that took away my real sustainability, my real survivability, more like it. So and since they added Unleash, like I haven't really been able to play Blade Vortex for long periods of time because of all the stopping and going. But apparently with Unleash, it's not like that anymore. It's not that bad. And so I'm looking forward to it because it is technically just spell Cyclone, which is my favorite skill. So I'm very excited. Very excited.
Noodle?
I don't have any exact plans because my league start will probably depend on if my hand still hurts. If I want to get spicy, I am going to look into doing something with Firewall just because I think it sounds like so much fun. But I am a little unsure of what kind of projectile I could use with it that would be good, although, maybe like explosive arrow or something. But if I don't figure out something, I'll just do ball lightning mines.
I feel like it's a little too early for me. There's some stuff that I was rattling around trying out, but I think that's a stay tuned. Out soon. I'll find out soon.
It highly depends on patch notes, right?
Yeah, of course. I know. I knew it was a very, I mean, like the topic actually says premature build ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm aware. Yeah. I'm very aware.
Yeah. Like for all we know, they're like, you know what? We gave you Blade Vortex Leech, but we're taking away some blades. And we're like, oh, and then it's just out the window or something. They just get rid of it on us because they do that sometimes. They're like, the skill doesn't need any change. Let's wreck it. Sometimes they just like to do this.
Sometimes they just like to take a sledgehammer to it.
I really enjoy it. Don't sledge it, please. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm very interested in. What do you guys think about the Salvo looking very much just like multi-projectile magma orb? Because that's kind of what it looked like to me. It already had multiple projectile. I think it does a jump. I thought I saw it do a jump. It
depends on how it behaves and then how much, because the power with Molten, I forget the name already, Molten whatever, is like its ability to chain and do like waves of like projectiles that happen because you chain as many times as you can. It's more magma orbs, etc., etc. And this one seems more like of a like fire and plant sort of thing where it hits the ground and then explodes because it's got that nice like projectile damage thing that it hits when it ends. And then those have the ability to overlap, so increase AoE and all these other sort of like things, and maybe even intensify. I don't know. Like there's some shenanigans that I feel like that can happen as far as like just making just ludicrous amounts of damage. Even though like visually, I think it would be very visually similar. I think the way they deal damage will be pretty different.
Could it be more Molten Strike-esque?
Is the video for it out, or are we just looking at the picture right now?
I swear I saw a thing with it. I swear I did. just
I've really seen the picture and I kind of didn't read it. I remember seeing the picture and being like, there's no video. I'm not going to read the description. And then in AMA, somebody was like asking Chris, like, did you plan on including? And they're like, oh, it's not ready yet. And I was like, okay, I'll just wait for it to be ready.
There's a picture for on the actual announcement page. It says Blazing Salvo. This spell releases a volley of fiery mortars targeting enemies up close, causes the mortars to land with overlapping impacts. So almost like a blast drain kind of thing, but more of like a GMP sort of spread on it. And then while firing farther away, causes the mortars to cover a large area. So it seems like blast rain that has range control.
Could be very interesting.
Interesting. Well, I think we can leave it like that. Pretty much the first time we might finish a podcast in an hour and 30, roughly. So Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been Baited Expectations with myself, piebypie, KittenCatNoodle, Brittleknee, and Velyna, and we will see you all in 3 weeks. It will be the first week of the new league, and we'll be very excited to discuss how Heist actually feels. Goodbye.